Hey everyone, Bree here from the Sewing House, back with week 3 of our 2026 Valentine quilt along, doing the seasonal patchwork quilt from Fig Tree Quilts. We're not doing any of the ones in the actual pattern. We are doing the supplemental hearts version. If you are doing one of the others, you can still play along with us. That's totally fine. Today, we are going to talk about making the star blocks. So they're pretty fun, and I think they add a lot to the whole thing. The hearts are kind of that soft, curvy look, and you've got the stars to counter that, and I think that just looks so fun in there. So let's jump into it. We are going to be using all lowercase letter pieces today. So in video 1, we talked about uppercase pieces and lowercase pieces. These are all lowercase letters that I'm talking about today. So we're going to start by making those cute little stars. To do that, we are going to start with these lovely little squares of your star background fabric. And we are also going to need your little bitty squares of your star fabric. So this is going to be piece J. This is piece U. On the back of the little U squares, you're going to draw a line from corner to corner. And then you are going to lay that in the corner of your background square so that it is running from side to side on that square, not going up into the corner of the square. It's going side to side like this. And if you want to make things a little more efficient, you can go ahead and line one up on the opposite corner. So they're stacked like that. And then you are going to take it to your sewing machine and stitch right down that line. When I say on the line, if you can, I would recommend stitching, like kind of keeping your needle so it's just on the outside edge of that line, because that's going to give your fabric room to actually fold back and match that corner when we flip this back. Okay. So on the line, but airing to the outside edge of that line. Okay. You're going to stitch that up just like this. You can see here, those are stitched. Those are 2 corners there. Now, we're going to talk about trimming these corners, okay? Because we have this white back here, I'm going to recommend, and this is actually what it says to do in the pattern, if you read in the front there, you're going to fold back the piece of the background fabric, and you're just going to trim off the outside corner of the star fabric, okay? So it's going to end up like this. There we go. We've just trimmed off the star fabric. So when it folds back up, you can see where it's going to line up with your background fabric, but that extra little bit of the star fabric's gone. A couple reasons we're going to do that. One, it does just kind of help stabilize the blocks, and when you've got all of these diagonal seams pulling on the bias, that helps a lot. Also, because that background is just white, it's not going to show through. It's not going to mess the look of anything up. Well, again, it still stabilizes your block a little bit. So that's a really nice way to do these things. It adds a little bit of bulk, but it's worth it in the end. Okay, so you can sew those, trim off just that extra little corner of the star fabric. Make sure you're trimming off the outside corner of that fabric, not the inside one, because that's the one that needs to fold up and make that point. And if you forget and you accidentally trim off both bits of this, it's going to be totally fine. Not a big deal. Then press those outwards like this. And we're ready to add the other corners of the center of our star. That's going to go just like what we just did. You're going to take your squares, lines drawn across the middle, one on this corner, again with that line going from side to side, not into the corner. Another square on that last corner that doesn't have anything on it, just the same, side to side. Stitch on the outside edge of that line. Do the exact same thing, trimming that just the star fabric in the corner and pressing those backwards. So you can see here, just that inside bit of that star fabric is trimmed. And then we can press it back so they'll look like this. When you have everything pressed and all those corners on, you'll notice that the corners of that square that's in the middle don't come all the way out to the edge. That's good. That's how you want it, because this is going to get stitched into other stuff, and we need to have that 1/4 inch seam allowance so that we get a nice point on that inside square. So this is exactly what it should look like. Don't panic if you have like extra space over here of that star material. Okay. We're going to do this with all of your star center pieces, all of your J pieces. And then we're ready. So that's going to be the center of our stars. And we're ready to make the outside points of all of the stars. So for those, you're going to grab your little white rectangles, they're K, and we're going to grab some more of those lovely little star squares, the U squares, and they still need that diagonal line on them. You're going to flop that on one side of the rectangle, making sure those edges are lined up, and stitch just on the outside edge of that line. So we're going to stitch right here. It'll be like this. Same deal with trimming. We are going to just trim off this little bit, the extra bit in the corner that is the star material. So when we press it back, it's going to look like this. Then take another square, and you're going to lay it on the opposite corner, the opposite sides of that rectangle. So your line is going corner to corner, so that when this gets folded back, it's going to make this triangle. If you have your line going the other way, you're going to end up with something that's going to look not quite like that. It's going to look, you're going to make this little parallelogram in the middle. So make sure you have it so that your lines are meeting to make that little triangle. Okay? That is going to happen on all of your little K rectangles. And once you have all of those stitched and pressed, make sure you press them. Pressing is very important, especially when we have all of these lovely little pieces. We are going to trim them up. I know trimming is super duper tedious, but it really does make it. So we need to make extra sure that these are all exactly 3 inches. Okay? And we are back to the actual pattern here. We're not on the supplemental page anymore. We are on page 10 of your pattern with all of the layout and everything. There is a bit at the beginning of the pattern, several pages back, about making the star blocks specifically and how to do all of the stitch and flip. She talks about trimming just that extra bit out. Make sure you read through that too. But to get these trimmed, I'm going to trim this. I'm going to take my ruler, put it on there. I would recommend a smaller ruler than this, but this is the one that I have handy, so it's the one I'm going to use. But I'm going to just lay it on here, and when I trim, I like to make extra sure that I do have that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I check all of my little corners around my square, and I make sure that those are all as close to a 1/4 inch from where I'm going to be trimming as I can get them without really throwing off the size of my block. Okay, then I'm going to straighten up 2 sides. I'm using the corner of my ruler so I can make sure I'm doing 2 sides at a time instead of just one. So I just did these 2 sides, and I'm going to turn so that those 2 sides are under my ruler, and the 2 sides I haven't trimmed yet are sticking out from it. And now I can just line up those squared up sides right where they need to be on my ruler, which is at 3 inches. I've got 3 inches here, 3 inches here, and trim and trim. And then I know my block is exactly the size I need to be. I don't have extra little bits sticking off or pointing, or it's exactly what I need. And that's going to make things a lot easier in our next step. So we're going to want to do the same thing with your little flying geese, your little triangles here. You do want to trim those up as well. They should be, checking here, I'll double check my blocks because we all have our moments. Yep, it should be 1 3/4 by 3 inches. You've done all of that stitching with all of your pieces. So trim all of those up, and we're ready to put this really cute little star together. Put the star together. You're going to have your star center. And on top and bottom of that, we are going to put one of our flying geese units. There we go. And make sure you've got your star points actually touching your star so you don't have it turned around the other way. Got it this way. You're going to stitch those on. When you stitch these on, do your very, very best to make sure you match up the point of the square in the center with the point of your triangle. It's going to go on the side. Stick a pin in there. Make sure it is not going to move on you as you are stitching, so that when you flip it back out, these should be meeting right there. Okay. So I'm going to sew those together, and then we will have our, got these little guys. These are your M pieces. They're going to go in the corners of the block, and you'll have another flying geese unit here. You'll stitch those together into a strip, just like here on the side of the block.